Top 10 real-life supervillains. I want you to close your eyes right now and think of the first person that comes to mind when you hear the phrase supervillain. Maybe you've thought of the Joker's carved smile and maniacal laugh, or Thanos and his bloodlust. But I bet whoever you conjured was someone born from a comic book or an animated movie. What we're about to show you are real-life sadistic criminals, from super rich to super violent and super deadly. Not only did they take millions, but millions of lives, too. Want to know these wretched rats up close and personal? Well, we've got them rounded up just for you. This is Top 10 Real-Life Supervillains. Let's check out number 10. On the 10th spot is the Blood Diamond Magnate. Dan Gertler is a negotiations expert in the diamonds, oil, and mining industries. He earned his nickname, the Blood Diamond Magnate, as he made billions of dollars from exporting diamonds when he started getting chummy with Joseph Kabila, former president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC for short. With the help of the Kabila family and Oxif Management Capital, a famous New York-based hedge fund, they were able to bribe and even rig elections in the DRC, Libya, Zimbabwe, and other African countries. Gertler dumped $20 million into the war led by the Kabila family that killed nearly 1 million, not counting the millions more that were wounded and raped. He continued to support the fight while securing exclusive diamond rights in the Congo. To this day, Gertler and his company DGI remains unscathed and uncontested for their corrupt involvements in Africa. According to the Bloomberg Billionaires Index, he has an estimated net worth of $1.2 billion. Oh, and before we move on to more mind-blowing villains, don't forget to like this video, turn on notifications, and subscribe to our channel, or Bach will rise from the dead and eat your face off! Number 9. Crystallized in our 9th spot is our Dimensions version of the Iceman. The X-Men would be so pissed if they found out that their buddy was out there freezing people to death. But this madman is physically the polar opposite of the Iceman we know. With a 6-foot, 300-pound body, Richard Kuklinski was built to be a villain. Kuklinski is the most prolific hitman in mafia history. With over 100 suspected murders, Kuklinski claims that he's just the moody type. If he didn't like you, he'd strangle you. If he saw you giving him the stink eye, he'd stab you with an ice pick. Oh my god! He used literally everything from poisons to chainsaws and hand grenades. But his ultimate favorite, he said, was spewing cyanide on the faces of victims with a nasal spray bottle. Because of his random choice of weapons, the police had a hard time deciphering whether they were different people who were behind these murders or just one man. And the Iceman would often freeze many of his victims, confusing investigators of their time of death. He also kills time by killing stray cats and dogs. What a chilling hobby. Finally, the Iceman was caught and sentenced for life, but just before testifying against his former mafia handler, he was poisoned by the mob. Talk about karma. When asked by an interviewer if he considers himself an assassin, he simply replied, "Assassin? That sounds so exotic. I was just a murderer." Claiming the 8th spot is Papa Doc. Francois Duvalier, or Papa Doc, as his subjects like to call him, was a Haitian elected president for 14 years. Papa Doc saw himself as a semi-divine, supernatural embodiment of Haiti. His conquest was to create a cult for himself. He literally embodied the image of Baron Samedi, a voodoo spirit of the dead, wearing a bowler hat, black suit, and a straight black tie to match his black-rimmed glasses. He even deepens his voice to match the myth. As Papa Doc got drunk with power, his cultish ways gave birth to a private police force he baptized as Tonton Macoudid, or the Boogeymen. The Boogeymen were responsible for terrorizing, assassinating, and beheading people who resisted his occult regime. An estimate of 60,000 people were executed under Papa Doc's command. One interesting tale about Papa Doc was when he heard of JFK's assassination in 1963. He claimed that on the morning of the assassination, he stabbed JFK's voodoo doll 2,222 times, because 22 was Papa Doc's lucky number. On Papa Doc's death in 1971, power was transferred to his son, Jean-Claude, aka Baby Doc. Number 7. The Zodiac Killer firmly holds the 7th spot. It's really unclear which is stronger, his bloodlust or his lust for public attention. Not only did this mystery madman name himself the Zodiac, he even sent letters to local newspapers detailing his recent murders, threatening them of more victims if they didn't put him on the front page. What a diva. The Zodiac Killer was responsible for at least 5 murders, most of which were young couples in dark places. The Zodiac would shoot them, or sometimes stab them repeatedly. In his letters to the local newspaper, he would put on his own self-made symbol of a circle with a cross drawn through it. He even left a 3-part cipher for the police to get busy decrypting. I must say, His personal supervillain branding is top-notch. Once solved by high school teacher Donald Hardin and his wife, the Cypress said, "I like killing people because killing people is so much fun. It's more fun than killing wild game in the forest because man is the most dangerous animal of all." The Zodiac Killer stopped his communication with the public, but the investigation did not. Multiple suspects surfaced over the years, but no one really knows who the Zodiac Killer is. The supervillain's acts were immortalized through books and movies just the way he wanted it. Must be nice. Number 6. The Napoleon of Crime is worthy of the 6th spot in this countdown. Calling him ambitious is an understatement. Adam Worth, dubbed as the Napoleon of Crime by the Scotland Yard, rose to infamy as a safe cracker, which led him to become the most notorious bank robber of New York. But the Big Apple was not enough for Worth. When he was almost caught by Pinkerton detectives, he decided to move to a bigger stage where Big Ben is found, the Great London. Upon settling in London, Worth adopted the stolen name Henry J. Raymond and pretended to be a rich gentleman in an even richer neighborhood, where he organized crimes and heists under his victims' noses. Worth and his cronies robbed the Boylston National Bank by digging underground from a rented property's basement door. Wow, but his most successful heist was when he stole Thomas Gainsborough's painting of the beautiful and enticing Duchess Georgiana that remained in his possession for 25 years. Fun fact, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the author of Sherlock Holmes, said that he modeled Holmes' arch-enemy Moriarty after the great supervillain Adam Worth. Number 5. The utterly repulsive Farmer Bro takes the number 5 spot. Martin Shkreli, the CEO and co-founder of Turing Pharmaceuticals, is the youngest supervillain to make it onto this countdown. His greed, corruption, and despicable smile drove him to be considered as the most hated man in America. His villainous ways were manifested when he jacked up the price of Daraprim, an anti-parasitic life-saving drug used to treat HIV and AIDS patients, by 5,000% from its original price. What cost at $13.50 spiked up to $750 per pill. Farmer Bro? More like Farmer Ho. But what convicted him as a criminal was when he was caught defrauding investors in 2 hedge funds he managed, and even conspired in manipulating shares of another drug company. You can tell by the vile smirk on his face that he feels no remorse for all the hardship and pain that he's caused. He was about to be granted for a release bond when Farmer Bro dared to post on Facebook a $5,000 bounty to whoever could bring him a lock of Hillary Clinton's hair. Ew. Now I know why he's so familiar. Because of this ridiculous offer, his bond was revoked. Now, Farmer Bro even had the audacity to ask for release so he could help research the coronavirus pandemic. Oh, hell no! Number 4. The self-proclaimed Dr. Chaos runs amok in number 4. To be fair, he really does live up to his name. From attempting to burn a tower to knocking down power lines and hacking computers, Joseph Konopka is the real deal. But what made people dread Konopka was when he stashed cyanide at a subway in the heart of downtown Chicago. When he was caught, authorities discovered that he had already had pending cases for killing power for an entire town, affecting over 30,000 power customers and caused nearly $800,000 in damage. Dr. Chaos even boasted of having young hacker cronies, which he proudly called the Realm of Chaos. This guy rides the waves, man. Dr. Chaos and his harem of nerds were responsible for 28 power failures and 20 service interruptions in Wisconsin's power plant. Dr. Chaos earned about 23 years in prison. When asked about the cyanide incident, he said, "I regret getting caught for it. There was no ill intent. I didn't have any plan to do any terrible thing with the cyanide. It was one of those spur-of-the-moment things that you sometimes do when you're young." Indeed, waves come crashing after the quake. Number 3 is Adolf Hitler. This man had a VIP reservation in hell. The world will forever be marked by the swastika symbol, a haunting image of a deadly past. Anointing himself with the title Führer, meeting leader, Hitler led the Nazi Party and used his position as chancellor to force a de facto legal dictatorship in Germany, thus assassinating anyone in the military and politics who opposed his regime, which was famously known as the Night of the Long Knives. Hitler took advantage of the chaos of World War II to commence the Holocaust. The word Holocaust, from the Greek words holos, whole, and kostos, burned, was used to describe a sacrificial offering burned on an altar. More than 6 million Jews were sent to a death camp, starting with those who were the least useful to the war: the sick, old, and weak, and the very young. The Jews were told that they were being sent to camps, but that they needed to bathe in the chambers first. Not knowing the fate that waited for them, they undressed, went into the gas chambers, were locked in, and were killed with Zyklon B gas. Once gassed up and dead, they were dragged out by other resident prisoners. Women's hair was cut off, rid of any metal dentals and jewelry, and burned. Over 11 million people were murdered in the Holocaust. Approximately 6 million Jews, which was 2/3 of their world population. The other 5 million were targeted for either being persons with disabilities, communists, homosexuals, Jehovah's Witnesses, and trade unionists. Treated like livestock for slaughter, homosexuals were even branded with pink triangles on their skin. More than 1 million of the victims were children, refusing to admit defeat after World War II. The Fuhrer killed himself with a bullet on his head, depriving the people of the chance to give back the agony he so generously scattered in his wake. Number 2. The devil himself must have the same kind of face. Number 2 is the current president of the Republic of Philippines. Duterte gained fame by using fear, character assassination, and intimidation to impose his authority, killing and torturing anyone he deemed as a threat. To Duterte, he was the law. He even formed a vigilante group called Davao Squad, responsible for carrying out executions of street children and individuals suspected of petty crimes and drug dealings. Some surveys claim that crime rates went down in the city as a successful result of Duterte's leadership style. Word spread like wildfire to the nation of how effective he was in the city. Blood came pouring down as soon as he sat down as the president. One of his flagship platforms, the promise of ending the war on drugs, in just 6 months was not only broken, but more than 12,000 people were murdered. The overwhelming majority of the dead were extrajudicially killed, with no proof whatsoever of their involvement with drugs. Human rights organizations and even the United Nations called him out for the bloodshed, warning him that the whole world is watching. The extrajudicial killings even prompted the International Criminal Court to conduct a preliminary investigation, and Duterte only responded with curses and insults, cautioning them to not interfere. Not only does Duterte continue to kill his own people, recent questionable meetings and transactions with the Chinese government seem to prove that Duterte's loyalty to his nation and his people is nowhere to be found. The proud lion who boasted of power and strength now seems to be a tamed dog, chained and wrung by the neck. In the present COVID-19 pandemic, instead of prioritizing mass testing and other health programs to combat the virus, Duterte is now pushing for the passing of the anti-terrorism bill, which claims to give military and police the sole power to freely define what is terrorism, who is considered a terrorist, and what to do with them. The Philippine government will be in full position to kill dissent and opposition. The voice of the people is needed now more than ever. Number 1. And now, comfortably resting his buns on the number 1 seat is General Butt Naked. He may sound like a villain that the Powerpuff Girls could easily beat up, but for General Butt Naked, Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup are one hell of a 3-course meal. At a tender age of 11, Joshua Milton Blayu was chosen to be a tribal priest in Liberia. He was taught the ways of communing with the devil, and communing he did. Blayu claimed that for 14 years of being a tribal priest and warlord, he's had the devil in his ears, telling him that he was destined to be a great warrior. But in order to achieve that, he needed to sacrifice and drink the blood of children or eat their heart before any battle. And so for 14 years, he really did. As his name suggests, General Butt Naked strips down to just his shoes and guns before charging into wars. Blayu claims that he has killed over 20,000 people, but the fact is that he was a cannibal, eating innocent children and even exploiting and enslaving them as part of his army. Back when he was involved with the blood diamond trade, he fed boys as young as 9 years old cocaine before throwing them into the battlefield. But as loud as the voice of the devil was, Blayu claimed that he had a blinding vision of God telling him to end the killings. And just like the conversations of St. Paul, Blayu has become a preacher of God's word. He is now the president of the End Time Train Evangelistic Ministry in Liberia. At age 39, he is married and a father of 3. So there you have it, Butter Believers. Top 10 real-life supervillains. Which one did you think was the most vile, vain, and vicious? Let us know in the comment section below. Thanks a bunch for watching. And if you found this video fun and interesting, check out one of these.